Hi, no idea what happened. I lost my last live stream. That's okay, it just interrupted in the middle. So before anybody comes on, and I know that loads of people will hear this, but I just want to talk about the offerings that Otis has been leaving me lately. Basically, like 6 days ago, I was in bed with Otis and I was joking. Otis is my cat, my familiar. Most of you know him. I was in bed and I was joking and I was saying, dude, I do so much for you. How come you don't leave me more offerings? And every day since then, except for, no, one this morning, one last night, none the day before, two the day before that. And they're bringing them inside the house. And so, because we leave a window cracked at night with like a piece of wood in it so nobody can break in, but the cats can get out. And basically, like, Otis used to leave them on the porch, but now he's bringing them inside. So we got another offering this morning. Thank you, Otis. I know that when I speak to him in regular language, that he does understand it. And he shows me that through things like his offerings, right? And I told him the last time he brought me one that didn't have a top part, I said, dude, do you think that you could at least leave the heads on when you bring them to me? And now they all have the heads on. So I'm just saying that my cat completely understands what I'm saying, even though he can't reply to me back in words. He replies back to me in perfect offerings. And I think that's pretty cool. So hi to everybody that came back. Thanks for coming back. I don't know what happened there. I wasn't really able to figure it out. I tried to restart my phone and restart the video, but it didn't work out. So, hey B, hey everybody. So we're gonna start out. I talked about Otis's offerings. We've got that done. I know that that's uber gross to a lot of you, but to me, I mean, he's treating me like a goddess. I think it's pretty amazing. And I think that he's really grateful for everything that I do for him. And that's his way of showing it. So, even though he is a cat, I know that he has such a full human spirit inside of him. Okay, so Earth Power by Scott Cunningham. We are on chapter 10. We're talking about tree magic. Clarissa, thank you for helping me pick what we would talk about first. The other thing that we're going to speak about in this video, we're going to read more from the Old Wives' lore. Right now we're under the section called Likes. And yesterday we read the whole of the planting section, which was 9 pages, and we read the whole of the foreword. So that was super fun. Thank you again, Tess, for these lovely, lovely gifts of all these Old Wives books. Hey, Jetta Joe, how are ya? Nice to see you. Okay, so Tree Magic by Scott Cunningham. Let me take a big drink of cuppa, and everybody have a good morning tea. Cheers. Cheers! In your biggest ball mug that you've got. I like these giant ball mugs. Well, they're just jars, but they're wide mouth, which is great. They fit a bundle of herbs inside of them. They're glass, and they fit 2 beers. 2 beers in 1 cup, and I think that that is pretty amazing. I heard it. Don't say it. I heard it. Okay, tree magic. There is a 17-year-old boy that lives inside of my head, and he hears all of the That's What She Says, believe me. He hears them before you guys do. Okay, there's the cackle. Tree magic. Trees have from time to time, what does that word say? Immoral? Wait, I don't know that word. Immemorial. Been closely associated with magic. These stout members of the vegetable kingdom may stand for as long as 1,000 years. Now, when you're going to talk about the giant sequoias, it gets longer than that. There are actually certain trees that that do that. You guys are hilarious. I know I'm hilarious too. Hey Thomas, how are ya? You just finished my stream from yesterday? Well, then you're right on track. Alright. I didn't stay on too long yesterday. A little over 2 hours, and then I was going to come back, but, you know, I got back into my Oracle decks. I had to walk to the store to get root beer float supplies. Like, it was a crazy day yesterday. But I did get the ice cream home in time so it didn't melt with some very careful planning in my backpack. I gave up driving. I don't want to do it anymore. It stresses me out far, far, far too much and costs far, far, far too much and is far too dangerous for my liking. So I've given up driving, which means sometimes you have to walk to the store for root beer float supplies and run back. And that's okay. It was just hilarious, though. I should have live streamed the whole thing because it would have been great. Okay. Oh, guys, there's 2 people from the UK here at least that I know of. You guys, there's this phrase that I use, and I don't know what it actually means. I heard it in Peep Show. So, in Peep Show, Season 9, Episode 2, where Mark has his new roommate, his roommate's all about reading, and he says, "Come on, Mark, let's get back to a Ruskin and a readin'." Okay, what's a Ruskin? Ruskin, like rusking, a Ruskin and a readin'. What does that mean? Because I've been saying it, and I think it means, like, in my heart it means, let's get down and have fun with reading, like something so dorky to say, but I don't know if that's actually what it means. So I need to know that from at least Thomas, who's here, and B, who's here, who are from the UK, who would know. Root beer in the UK either Caters or Brudeberg. Love root beer. Yum. Oh, Carter's. The sequoias are ancient beings. Yeah, and I've heard, hey Jay, I've heard a lot of mythology about the big ancient sequoias. Oh, Ruskin was an author. Thank you. So Clarissa, do you know that episode of UK? Oh, and you're British too. That's the good thing about going on early in the morning for me, because it's only 8 a.m. for me. For you guys, it's like what, 3 o'clock? Okay, thank you. So I can just continue to use a Ruskin and a reading, but I can say a Cunningham and a reading, I guess. Anyway, I'm still gonna say a Ruskin and a reading. All right. Trees have from time. All right, we talked about big giant trees. Vegetable kingdom. So these stout members of the vegetable kingdom may stand for as long as 1,000 years and tower above our mortal heads. As such, they are symbols and keepers of unlimited power, longevity, and timelessness. An untouched forest, studded with trees of all ages, sizes, and types, is more than a mysterious magical place. It is one of the energy reservoirs of nature. Within its boundaries stand ancient and new centennials, guardians of the universe force that has manifested on Earth in vegetable form. I'm really liking that he's calling trees vegetables, because, you know, they're full of vegetation, and we eat from them most of the time. So, hey, Witchy Susie Q, really nice to see you. And Jan's Life Journey, nice to see you guys. Butterfly Magic with hot tea. Loads of people here. Great. Ruskin is John Ruskin. He was a philanthropist and general clever person who looked at maths and other things. Well, then it will just make sense for what we're doing if I say it. So it'll be fine, and you guys will know the joke, and it'll just be a small group of us that know just how silly Jen is. So, as such, a forest is an excellent spot for magical workings of any kind, not only tree magic, but any tree anywhere in the world can be used for the spells and techniques discussed right here. Since each type of tree has its own particular powers, these will be outlined after the actual techniques are presented. Bear in mind that tree magic needn't be limited to these tree types, for every tree has its own inherent powers that vary from tree to tree. Experiment. And something he doesn't say after experiment, hi Brenda, that I'm going to say right now is also experiment and note it in your grimoire. Because, like we talked about before, if you're experimenting with things and you're doing witchcraft every day, I almost guarantee that unless you're one of those people who just remember every single thing, that you'll probably forget if you don't note it down in a book of shadows, etc. Okay. So yeah, experiment and take notes and hypothesize and fine tune it to be better next time. If this time the oak tree didn't work, next time try the birch or your apple tree or your cherry tree, and note down like the different vibrations you felt from it, the different images you got in your head when with it, closing your eyes, meditate with trees and kind of like feed off of their vibrations. That's something that I like to do. Okay. All trees, save for the poisonous ones, such as yew and hemlock, so are excellent for healing magic. So yew and hemlock are not excellent for healing magic, but all of the rest are. Hey, Lana Muse. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Lana's Muse. A ruskin is also a cupboard that you put your rusks in. I made this up. Oh gosh, Thomas. And what are rusks? Okay, Brenda, I will light a candle for your dad. He's in the hospital. Heart attack. Oh my gosh, Brenda. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm just going to take a minute and light a candle for Brenda's dad. I'm so sorry, Brenda. Couple things I want to do real quick. Brenda, is it okay if I do a black one for banishing the issue, or do you want me to light a white one? I know not everybody wants me to light a black candle for them. You can't visit, but I'll light a candle for you. If she doesn't reply either, okay, I'll go ahead with the black one. Thanks for popping by, and everybody's going to keep your dad in their heart, and we're just going to try and repair the problem for you and really send energy to help you guys. Gosh. Okay, let me light this candle for Brenda. You guys, let's all put our energy into this, into banishing his illness and his issues that he has going on right now, okay? I'm going to put a little bit of water and a couple of things on this real quick and light it, and then we'll get back to a rusking and a reading, won't we, y'all? If I can get to my matches past my candy. Oh my gosh. Looks like I totally even forgot that last night I was snacking on Cinnamon Bears and Reese's Pieces. These are my favorite candy in the world. But I was born in 1982, the year that E.T. came out, so I usually just say that that's why. I get a little piece of William, my mandrake root. I'll be right back. Thanks for waiting, y'all. That's so kind of everybody to wait. I just want to light this special candle for Brenda's dad. I've known Brenda for quite some time. And I love her a lot and care about her and her dad. So I'm going to add a little piece of William, my mandrake root, to the candle. Just the edge. And I'm going to add a little bit of these flower petals, roses, from my wedding. And I think a lot of people, we think about roses when we think of the heart and love and the heart chakra. But there are also, you know, some other qualities to roses that will be great to add to this as well. Just one petal. One petal's enough. These gotta last me my whole life, so one petal. And just the teeniest, teeniest, teeniest dusting from the bottom of this jar just to add into the candle. There we go. So in the bottom of the jar, like, here we go. See those little bits that look like saffron, those little tiny pieces? That's all that I need to put in there. Just a couple little bits. But man, that mandrake root sure will help you take care of your issues. And then I'm going to take a little piece of this and crumble it into the candle. And then I'm also going to leave a little bit around the outside of the candle. Crumble it in because it will catch fire if you don't, you know, like you can't leave a whole petal in there. It would be a very big fire hazard, and never leave your candles, y'all. Not unless they're one like this that's in like a glass case. Okay. Alright, y'all. Thank you for waiting while we did that. Alrighty. So, Brenda, all of our love and prayers are with you and your dad. I'm so sorry that he's going through this right now. Okay. If anybody else ever needs a candle lit, you just let me know. And we'll get some energy and love put into it for you guys. Thank you, Goddess Queen 33. I really, really, really appreciate you telling everybody what's going on. Hey, Michelle, how are ya? Okay, so easing back into the tree magic. And we were saying all trees, save for the poisonous ones, such as yew and hemlock, are excellent for healing magic. Any tree can be used to take away a headache and give you energy. And that's a really, really good suggestion for if you have a headache. Literally go outside and with your naked arms and perhaps a naked chest if you live in a place where you can be out in your yard naked. Perhaps just go and embrace a tree and take on that energy. Perhaps put your temple on the side of your face next to the tree. I know that it's been made into a joke, this whole tree hugger phrase, but I do believe that a lot of it comes from magic. You know, the phrase of hugging trees and crazy old hippies and all those things that they, they do. That we do. We are limited purely by our own minds and actions as far as what you will believe will work and won't work for you, right? If you think that that Chinese herbs would never heal someone and the only thing that would heal somebody would be an allopathic pill form medicine, then for you that probably won't work. But if you believe that the power of the universe and the power of your mind can heal you, keep your dentist away, take care of you when you're ill, revive somebody when they're in a fit of depression, if you believe that those things can happen with energy, which I do, then they sure will. And yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Where Scotty's saying we are limited purely by our own mind and actions. Okay, it is important to talk to any trees you are working magic with. And again, really kind of talking like we do about mandrake, our rose of Jericho, and any of the other plants that, you know, are one that are known by legend to want to be human, want to be a part of this human world. Trees, there's a lot of legend behind trees and what they are and what they stand for, and I think that that's great, and I hope that we cover some of that in here. But I believe that trees certainly want to be a part of that human realm too. They look like people. When you see, you know, them drawn with the holes in them, they often, you can find faces in trees, and that's been, I've read in some old books that that's a method of scrying, is to find images in the trees and things like that. Yes, be one with nature in your birthday suit, if you can, and embrace things with your body and roll on the earth and all of that, because that skin to nature contact is very, very, very healing and therapeutic, in my opinion. It is important to talk to trees you are working with magically. Tell them exactly what your need is. Explain to them why the need exists and its urgency. Again, talk to it like a human, like it's your best friend. And you can also let it become one of your best friends. Oh, cool, magical crafting. That's so fun. Trees are living entities with a consciousness that, while different from our own, is still capable of communication upon subtler planes of awareness. I fully believe that that's a true statement. So, even though old spells sometimes direct you to pound nails into trees, please don't. And that's something that I wouldn't do either. I have been known to tap into a tree to get its sap upon asking, but as far as pounding a nail in a tree, no, I've not done that. I've asked a tree if I can cut into it to get sap, like out of a pine tree. We'll be on our way to getting a bleeding tree, the dragon blood tree. Alex and I are going to be purchasing one once we get to Texas, and we saw one at the conservatory in Texas, and oh my goodness, they're absolutely beautiful. Okay, so where are we at? So even though old spells sometimes direct you to pound nails into trees, please don't. This is only damaging and hurtful to the tree. It is absolutely unnecessary, for there are other techniques available. Some of these spells require marking symbols on leaves. A stick that has been burned on one end is excellent, for the charcoal will act as the graphite in a pencil. Practice with this until you become proficient. Okay, and next we go into a tree spell. So here's all the different spells that we'll be reading through in this book. We will be reading through, that's for your dad, B, right there. We used some mandrake and rose petals from my wedding. Okay. We'll be reading a tree spell. We'll be reading a tree healing spell. A cure, a healing to cure backache, which I need, by the way. So that'll be really good. To break a bad habit, to regain lost energy, to divine the future, a tree love spell. And then we'll be talking about all the magical powers of all the different types of trees. And we have about 20 different types of trees here to read from. So there'll be loads of things. You say you fully believe it? Michelle Noel? Me too. If you're talking about trees being super healing and just having to talk to them and ask and tell them your woes. And they certainly will help you. This book is so good. I know, I agree. And you guys, it's brand new. It's $12.99 in the US and $14.99 in Canada. It's not super big, but I feel like he's just put so much good information into this little book. Okay, so a tree spell. When you have found a tree to work magic with, take a large leaf, a charcoal tip stick, a piece of flexible vine or natural fiber cord, and a dime to the tree. Sitting beneath it, write or draw a symbol of your need with the stick. Rise, and walk 9 times around the tree clockwise, saying the following or similar words. Ancient One of the ancient earth, older than time can tell, grant me the power at your command to charge my magic spell. Repeat as often as necessary until you have walked 9 times around the tree. When finished, tie the leaf around the trunk as tightly as you can with the vine. If it isn't possible, find a branch and tie it on there. When you are sure that the leaf is secure, take the dime and bury it at the foot of the tree in the earth in payment for its help. And that might sound silly, but I've probably put over $200 just in pennies and dimes and nickels, maybe a couple quarters, as offerings to nature in my entire, well, probably more than that in my entire life, because I've been doing wishing wells since I was a kid. And my mom used to give us quarters for the wishing well. So when we think about these things, and wishing well is like an offering to Bridget. Do you guys know Bridget? So, anyway, if you think that burying money as an offering to a tree that can't even spend the money, then you're absolutely wrong. If nothing else, the precious metal is just a beautiful thing to have down there. I don't know what dimes are made of, but for instance, like a pre-1982 penny is probably what I would choose to bury if I was using my intuition, because it's got a copper base in it, and as we know, copper is a conductor, and it certainly magnifies our magic. Madam Butterfly says, enjoying this book and the gardening book too. Think I'm going to have to buy the gardening book one. So unique. Yeah, so let me hold that up for you if you want to get it. And remember, this is a book that is written by these 2 UK women, Maureen and Bridget Boland. Okay, and this one is the compilation of these 2. But I don't know how to say it. I want all 3, even though this one is a compilation of these 2, because look, there can't be that much information in this one. It's just the best of the information's in here, taking out of these 2. So anyway, here's the books we've got that Tess sent to the channel. Thank you so much for the donations, Tess. Maureen and Bridget Boland, Old Wives' Lore for Gardeners, including Gardening Magic. And then we've got Gardener's Magic and Other Old Wives' Tales by Bridget Boland, just Bridget, no Maureen on that one. And then this one is Maureen and Bridget, and it's Gardener's Lore. So anyway, we're reading out of the one that's a compilation, but these 2 are awesome as well. Now, and it was just $1 back in the 70s. It was just $1, or £1, excuse me, not $1. Alright, we're getting on so many tangents. I apologize, y'all. So, talking about burying the dime as an offering for the tree. Of course, I like to do what Scotty suggests, but Scotty also suggests that you alter it to your liking. And you should do that with really any working, in my opinion. They are perfect reeds for spring. I agree. That's so true. Okay. So, repeat as often as walking around. Bury the dime. Doodaloo. Yeah. Take the dime and bury it at the foot of the tree in the earth in payment for its help. Now leave the area and let the tree do its work. If, when you return to the tree, the leaf is gone, don't worry. The forces have already been set into motion. And whether it be an animal that brushed against the tree and moved it down, or the wind, or a little kid walking through the forest that tore apart your working. Once that tree is away from, once the leaf is away from the binding, it's in the universe, no matter how it got away. And that's my true belief. Don't feel like, goosebumps when you said Bridget. Aw. Don't feel like, just because maybe someone effed up your working that didn't set it into motion. It's their problem for interrupting that energy, not yours. However, I really don't feel like that would screw up the working. I think that however the leaf gets off of the tree is the way it gets set into the universe, and that's just how it was meant to go. Okay, so next we have a tree healing spell. Though the above spell that we just said can be used with any sort of magical need, trees have long been looked to for aid in healing. So here are several formulas that can be used. To cure. Tie a red string around the patient's neck just before he or she retires for the night. In the morning, immediately untie the string and re-tie it around a tree trunk or branch, thereby transferring the sickness to the tree. The tree will send it down into the earth. Be sure to leave an offering of thanks at the base of the tree. Here's what I want to say about that. That's uber powerful. Brenda, is there any way that possibly you can visit your dad and... Okay, I don't know how everybody's parents feel about witchcraft and things like that, especially people in older generations, because they may have been really spooked by it. But if we do have people in our lives that we can tell them, you know, I want to do an energy working with you, which there's no lie to that. There's no lie in saying that I want to do an energy working with you and do that very spell. Another name for a spell is a working. You can phrase it however you want. We don't have to call it witchcraft and scare everybody or scare certain people around us. And also I don't think there's any shame in not calling it a witchcraft working and instead calling it an energy working, because they're one and the same. But is there a way that if we have a sick loved one, we could do that with them? It would be pretty amazing. Does anyone ever fall in trees with coins hammered into them? I haven't seen that before, but I know what kind of working that is, I think. Okay, and also I want to say that on that little chapter about how to cure, when I was younger, I used to use, and I say the word use lightly because I was younger and I didn't get it, but I used to use cats and animals to take away my pain. But they are not grounded into the earth like a tree, and they cannot dispense the energy like a tree can. Get rid of it. They filter it like an empath, as far as I'm concerned. I don't do it anymore. When I'm depressed, I don't transfer that energy to my cat. Oh yeah, I understand the germs completely because my dad has lung issues as well, Brenda. It was just a thought. But we can transfer that energy that way, and especially when I think that a part of that working has to do with the fact that you did it during sleep and the person took off to the astral realm for a while the string was around their neck. And I think that I can't really explain how, but I think that has a little bit to do with it. Okay, this is a healing working. Find a strong, particularly healthy and vibrant tree, one with slim, flexible branches. When you're sick, go to the tree and tie a knot gently in one of the branches or twigs. So they have to be really flexible in order to tie a knot in them, obviously. And a very healthy tree has those little branches that are really flexible because there's so much moisture in the branch. If they crack immediately, it's because they're dry. This must not hurt the tree, so make the knot loose but tight enough to retain its shape. So as long as it looks like a pretzel, you know, even though it's not tied into a knot, even if it looks like a pretzel and it's woven between each other, then you've got the knot that you need appropriate for this working. Ask the tree for its help in healing you. Say out loud and talk to it like it's a human. I don't care if the neighbors can hear you. I don't care if your husband can hear you. I don't care if you look silly or your kids laugh at you. It's a good time to teach our kids really fun things to be interacting with nature. So even if your kid looks back on these memories and thinks, my mom is a nut, she used to talk to trees and try and get them to heal her when she was sick. You know, you may seem like a nut, but that's okay. Everybody likes a nut, right? No, it works, though. It's amazing, that connection that you can have if you actually speak to a plant or a tree or something like that, like it's a person. I do that all the time. Ask the tree for its help in healing you. Pour the disease or wound into the knot, visualizing it in detail for several minutes. So, close your eyes, and just like when we close our eyes and put a white light around us for protection, which, by the way, is one of the simplest, easiest ways to protect yourself anywhere. Closing your eyes and putting that white light around you or someone that you love. That visualization is absolute power, and not enough people use it, in my opinion. So visualize yourself with the dis-ease, whatever dis-ease you've got, in a jar. And visualize you now taking that jar and pouring it through the knot. And your actual dis-ease you can see run through that pretzel, that woven knot hole. Pouring it through and being filtered. And when it comes out on the other end of the knot, it's just, all the little diseases screaming, no, we're dead, no, she's killing us, and squash the disease that way. So however you need to visualize it. I kind of visualize it like Alice in Wonderland and, like, you know, the little oysters. Little oysters, little oysters. And you know, when the little oysters got sad and cried, that's kind of like what I picture. Whatever you can to make the visualization more powerful will be absolutely helpful in this. So pour the disease wound into the knot, visualizing it in detail for several minutes. Then untie the knot, again with care so that the tree isn't damaged. This will release the disease and it will sink into the earth. Bury an offering at the tree's base. So again, I think that the common thing is bury them at the base. Alice, yes. Oh. Your 3 children tease you all the time, Muse? Okay, well then I don't feel so bad, because my daughter doesn't like tease me out loud, but I have I see the looks though, and they're just like, okay. So this is going to be a biggie for me. This is to cure backache. I have really bad lower back pain because I don't have my art desk has plants all over it because I gave it to my husband. But once we get to sorry about that. Okay, so to cure backache, circle the tree 9 times clockwise, asking it to ease your pain until using a chant such as this one. Oh great tree, oh strong tree, absorb my pain so I'll be free. Oh great tree, oh strong tree, absorb my pain so I'll be free. Oh great tree, oh strong tree, absorb my pain so I'll be free. That's great, super easy to remember, and it's a rhyme. So again, when things rhyme, they're A, easy for us to remember. B, for whatever reason, the rhyme sticks into the universe better. And it just works better. And I don't know how to explain that. You're going to try it today? I'm going to try it today too. So let me know what happens for you, Muse. And I'll let you know what happens for me. Okay, to break a bad habit. Oh, wait. I didn't finish the backache one. Okay, after you have circled the tree 9 times clockwise, asking it to ease your pain by saying, "Oh great tree, oh strong tree, absorb my pain so I'll be free." Then you lie back against the tree's firm, solid trunk. Press your back into the bark. And again, you guys really, really, really need to do this barebacked. Okay, so we really need to do this with no shirt on. I heard it so that the actual skin of your back is touching the actual bark of the tree. And maybe that just means that you keep your sports bra on and you get out there and you do it. Or you put a bikini top on and you get out there and do it. Or if you're a man, you just take off your shirt and you do it. I don't care if you put tassels on. Whatever you got to do to get the part where the pain is against the tree, flesh to flesh, if you will. Okay, so press your back into the bark. Feel the tree absorbing the pain and your back releasing it into the tree. And he doesn't say visualize it here, but I'm going to say it. Visualize when your back is against that tree. Here's the tree. Here's your fleshy back. Visualize all these lines of red pain leaving your back and going into the tree, and visualize them going down into the roots and being absorbed by the earth. Visualize this whole process while you're perhaps sitting back to trunk. Okay? And the more visualizing that you do, the more it will go straight down into the earth and be perfection. Okay? After a few minutes, rise and thank the tree by burying something precious at its foot. Now, a really precious thing to bury, because we've talked about leaving coins, we've talked about some of the things that I leave, like I dry things in my dehydrator to leave as nature offerings. I'll show you one that I took out yesterday. But I think it's really awesome to what was I just saying? I think it's really awesome to put something new into the ground, but what was I? Oh, stone. Like a stone. If you've got, I've got so many stones over there, there's no reason why I couldn't find a small one and bury it at the base of my tree as a gratitude, But anyway, here is some of the, new moon offering that I make, and it's got just so many things in it, but I dehydrate this all from my dehydrator, and, I've got blood oranges and orange peel and these coconut husks that smell like vanilla. They're amazing. Vietnamese coriander, banana petals, Norfolk Island pine, just hibiscus. There's more in there than that, but there's just tons of stuff in there, and that's a great thing to just leave in nature, or at the sea. It's completely biodegradable and organic. And it was just going to go and be garbage scraps or compost pile scraps, you know what I'm saying? So that's a really nice thing to give back to the earth as a thank you. It's a great Fae offering from what I've experienced. Especially if they call the tree police. Hey Joyce, how are you? Good morning and hugs to you too. Okay, so right, and we just say, after a few minutes, rise and thank the tree by burying something precious at its foot. And I just wanted to say that, that can really be anything. A shell, your favorite rock, not your favorite, but one of your favorite rocks, or a cool rock you found that day. The intent is really what needs to be there. If you don't even have 1 penny to waste, go pick some beautiful flowers for the tree. The intent and the time it takes can be much more than any kind of monies. Muse said, I've just started collecting all of my magical herbs and such. Nice! We do a lot of foraging here. You have a long way to go. You have lavender, cinnamon, rose petals, and calendula. Calendula is great. Calendula is really great, and you can even make your natural beauty products with it. Awesome for rashes, soft skin, so many things. Okay, so now we've got a tree spell to break a bad habit. As I smoke. Make a picture of yourself or the bad habit on a leaf. So if your bad habit was smoking, you could draw a picture of, smoking on the leaf. If your bad habit was candy, you could draw a box of candy on a leaf, or the shape of your favorite candy. Whatever it needs to be, and whatever symbol works for you. Calendula is great for opening your psychic powers too. Thank you for that addition, Goddess Queen. I appreciate it. And I actually didn't know that one. Okay, so make a picture of yourself or the bad habit on a leaf or a piece of bark. Take it to a proper tree and bury it at its roots. Place an offering to the tree in the hole with the leaf or bark and cover it up. Pour some water onto the spot and it is done. So it's almost like, that doesn't make sense though. Why would you bury it in water? Never mind. Ha ha ha! You're funny, Thomas. Lunae is not a bad habit. Candy. Remember my drawer? What was above my matches? Candy. Gosh, candy. No, I know. Candy's not a bad habit. I'll never quit candy. Alright, so here's a tree spell to regain lost energy. I'm sure that we could all use that sometimes, right? Sit with your back pressed against the tree trunk. Again, I'm going to say naked back. And let the tree's limitless energy flow into you. Because the tree's energy really, really, really is limitless. I can't tell you enough. Very excellent if you have been walking or hiking long distances. And let's say this. If you're hiking in the woods and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired and I'm only halfway here. I'm never going to get back. Look around. Ask your spirit guides, which tree should I pick? Find the tree, go over there, and use this to recharge yourself to get home. Okay? I'm not saying it's going to put calories in your body. I'm just saying that it's going to energize you, definitely. We get energy we know about energy transference. We've all watched the water drop video about how you can change water and the structure of the molecules just by what you're thinking above it. Have you guys not all seen that water molecule video? I mean, it is mind-blowing. And if you have anybody in your life that doesn't believe in energy work, all you have to do is show them that video and they're like, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. Got chills and tingles and goosebumps all over my body. But if you don't think by holding your energy and intent over a candle that it's not going to change the universe, then watch that water video because it's nuts. Okay, so that was to regain lost energy. Now to divine the future. Lie beneath leafy trees and relax, gazing up into the ever-shifting canopy of green above you. Reminds me of Alice in Wonderland and the poppies, you know. Watch the random patterns formed by the wind's gentle lifting and pushing of the leaves. This should lull you to a state where you open up psychically and receive messages concerning questions you have. Now this is a tree love spell. Oh, Joyce, that's not too bad. That's doing good. I'm glad that you're doing good. Muse says, we have lots of pine trees around your house. You're hoping you can find some for the cones and needles. I have cones and needles if you need some. They're so plentiful around here. And I did a big, long, 33-minute video all on pine trees, pine needles, pine cones, pine nuts, and pine wood. So, Muse, if you haven't seen my pine video, just search Taxidermy Witch Pine. And or any other herb you're wondering. Taxidermy Witch Roses, Taxidermy Witch Mangoes, Taxidermy... I've done so many herbal videos. Great. Okay, so this is a tree love spell. And you guys know I'm not a fan of love workings. I don't do them. I will do 100 attraction workings before I would ever even consider a love working, because the ones that I've done in the past have ended up in really, really bad situations like stalking and obsession, and those are difficult things to undo from my experience. So that is why I don't do love workings. But I'm not afraid to do baneful workings, just love workings. Oh, that's great, Thomas. Okay, so here is a tree love spell. On a small leaf, make an image of yourself. On another, make an image of the type of person you wish to meet. You better be a good artist, I suppose. With the green thread, sew the two images together face to face and knot the string tightly. Okay. Just like, make sure you really like this person, okay? Just make sure you really like this person and you really know this person before you do a love working to, like, you just bound them to you face to face and buried it. Like, I think love workings are great for people who are already in love and having trouble, but I don't think love spells are good for people who don't know each other. And, you know, like, really well. Okay, so go to a tree that emits loving vibrations, and when we get to the next page, we're going to be talking about all the trees and their different vibrations, and a lot of them have love. So one of the trees that have one of these love vibrations coming up on the next page, that's one of the trees that you'll want to use. So go to a tree that emits loving vibrations and find a natural crevice or hole in the tree. Don't make one. Do not make one. If one's not available, perhaps the place where a branch is joined to the trunk can be used as long as it is secure. Lodge the leaves firmly into the crevice, and as you lodge them firmly into the crevice, say this: Tree of earth, water, air, and fire, grant me the love that I desire. Okay, now, I like the way this is phrased. Grant me the love that I desire. Okay, now, no one desires a true stalker, if you know what that's like. So really use your visualization and don't just hastily say, give me love. You know, give me this love that I desire, and then envision it. You know, these visuals that you visualize, both of you smiling, both of you running on the beach holding hands, whatever you want for your love, just really envision that firmly. Now bury 7 pennies at its base and it is done. And I would suggest pre-1982 pennies because they're a copper base. And again, copper is really attracting and magnetic. It draws things to it. So it would make sense for a love working to add these pre-1982 US copper pennies. I just got gifted a bunch of witchy books from a friend, and one of them was the book of 5,000 Spells. I've seen that. I'm so looking forward to going through that book. Also were a few by Michael F. Ward. Nice. I haven't read that author before, but let me know what you think of your books. Or do a video on all the books you got and then just talk about like the table of contents so we know what's in them. I love doing that. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the magical powers of trees, and that's going to be the end of this chapter, and then we're going to talk about some old wives' tales. PG Tips, organic half and half, raw sugar. Two bags of tea. This is a double tea. See, because this holds 24 ounces or something, so that's like 14 ounces. Great cup. Okay. Okay, so the trees with which you cultivate magical relationships are things to be treasured. Visit them often when you have no magic to perform. When you can arrive at the point when you accept the tree as friends, you have achieved a powerful bond between yourself, the earth, and even beyond. I'm about to cry. Stop it. I'm thinking about my tree. And I really like the idea that somebody gave me to try and get a start from my tree to take to Texas. And I can't remember who said that, but it was a suggestion either yesterday or the day before, and I thought it was beautiful. And Alex knows how to do that, so we're definitely going to take a start from it. Okay, and my tree is a cherry tree. Cherry's not in here. That's weird. Okay. The magical powers of trees. Almond trees. Now you want some tea. I do make a good cuppa. PG tips. So almond trees are good for divination, clairvoyance, money, loans, and business. Apple is good for healing, prosperity, love, and perpetual youth. Ash. Protection, sea magic when performing those spells far from any ocean. Apricot, love. Aspen, protection. Birch, protection, purification, fertility, and new beginnings. Cedar, prosperity and longevity. Coconut, purity, chastity, and healing. Cypress, past life workings and protection. Elder, healing, protection, prosperity. Elm, protection. Eucalyptus, healing. Fig, fertility, strength, energy, and health. Hawthorn, cleansing, marriage, love, and protection. Hazel, divination, marriage, protection, and reconciliation. Hemlock, not recommended for use. So hemlock is not recommended for magical use. Juniper, protection. Lemon, divination, healing, chastity, and neutrality. Being neutral. Neutrality. Lime, divination, healing, chastity, and neutrality. So lemon and lime trees are good for the exact same thing. But that's not with any citrus, because I'm looking at other citrus trees. So lemon and lime are the same. Divination, healing, chastity, and neutrality. Linden is good for protection. Maple is good for divination and love. Oh my gosh, Brenda, that sounds amazing. Mulberry, knowledge, divination, wisdom, and the will. Oak, healing, strength, money, and longevity. Olive, peace, fruitfulness, security, money, marriage, and fidelity. Orange, love and marriage. Palm, strength and wisdom. Peach, love and divination. Pine, purification, health, fortune, prosperity, and fertility. Rowan, protection and strength. Walnut, healing and protection. Willow, healing, protection, enchantments, easy delivery of babies, and wishing. And yew is not recommended for use. So again, hemlock and yew are not recommended for use. Okay? And that concludes Chapter 10 of Earth Power and Tree Magic. So I will catch up on some comments, and then we will read the chapter called Likes from the Old Wives' Tales, and that is about 5 or 6 pages. So let's catch up on some comments. And remember, if you guys want me to see something and reply back to it, make sure I read it, put it in all caps, and I'll do my best to see it. Okay, bye. Bye, everybody that's got to go. I think we're good, right? I think we're good. All right. Okay, so Freshwater Fairy says, I notice a lot of correlations they had in this book is similar in meaning to Ogham. Okay, so now, old wives, lore for gardeners, incorporating gardening magic. Okay, so likes. In so unspecific a work as this, we hesitate to use the word symbiosis, which is one that serious people now employ when writing of plants that get on well together. Older gardeners found out by trial and error what grew well in proximity and what did not, without realizing that they were using the biodynamic method, happily ignorant of the nature of root excretions and the activity of organic compounds. Now that such knowledge is available and in a form digestible by the unscientifically minded as well as experts, no one should plan the layout of flower or kitchen garden without references to the little handbook called Companion Plants by Helen Philbrick and Richard B. Gregg, published by Watkins. And yesterday I suggested 2 books to you guys talking about companion gardening. But definitely take these ladies' suggestions. This book just might be really outdated, but that's okay. It's, I like books that are 50 plus years old. Companion gardening books that I have read before and really liked are Roses Love Garlic, and then another book called Carrots Love Tomatoes. Okay? If we wrote one on witchcraft, it would be called Roses Love Dead Bodies, which is true. Which we read in this book yesterday, didn't we? And it pops up in American Horror Story. And that is true. Alright, so marigolds with everything. Marigolds are great. When we were children, we spent every summer in a little house in a fishing village in northern France, which we rented from M and M. Noel. They lived there all year round, retreating to a corner of the house when we arrived by continuing to keep up the garden, the only one in the village. They grew vegetables only for the house, but they sold the flowers. There was a bell that jangled when anyone came through the door in the high garden wall, and shy young men used to put a cautious hand up to clutch it as they slipped in, lest the horrible little Bolins lying in wait should gossip all around the village that they were courting. On the feasts of saints that were the name days of the most popular girls, half-stifled clattering of the bell could be heard at all intervals during the day. The village was built on pure sea land, but outside, and why does that matter? Okay, it's really hard to grow things on sea land because of salt. I know that in witchcraft, and I learned this 2 years ago when Alex was like, why is there salt in the garden? Like, I didn't know. But I had put a working into the garden, and I almost killed the whole garden. And I could not stop bawling once I realized what I did. He's like, the plants are suffering, and when someone that doesn't talk to plants as people says, the plants are suffering, like, that's so bad, and I was just wrenched. Like, I had no idea. So, if you live somewhere, like, next to the sea, it's very difficult to grow flowers or vegetables with salt air and salt land and salt water being all around. So, I just wanted to interject that little bit. Never throw salt into your garden. Oh my gosh. That was a sad day for me. I was just like bawling all day. Okay, so the village was built on pure sea land, but inside our little walled garden, the soil was as rich as chocolate. Everything grew. M. Noel's particular pride were in dahlias that he bred as big as soup plates. Oh, let me show you this. This is hilarious. This is how big they were, I bet. I found this at Pier 1 a few years back. Isn't it great? And sometimes, well, I used to hang it above my bed so that when I went to sleep I would be looking up at these poppies like Alice in Wonderland. But these were $10 a piece. Otherwise, I would have gotten like 50 of them and put them on my ceiling. That would have been so fun. But I have actually seen flowers that are as big as soup plates, and I think that this might be one of them. Wouldn't it be funny if I, like, I've always wanted to do sketch comedy because I think it's the best. If I, like, put this flower in my hair. It's bigger than my head. Anyway, really love this poppy. And I use that for addiction workings, right? For people that have opiate addictions and things like this. I take this poppy and I slap it on them, as well as some fresh mugwort. But, like, banishing, you know. Oh, boy. The things that go through my head are just hilarious. Yeah, I could use that, too. I've had a hard time my whole life dealing with that subject, so. Okay. So, M. Noel's particular pride were in dahlias that he bred, and they were as big as soup plates, planted near the outside privy. What's privy, you guys? I don't know that word. It was not a beautiful garden, for flowers of each kind grew rigidly in commercially practical rows, and there were, for our taste, far too many of the everlasting flowers in great demand for taking to the cemetery. But nowhere truly were plants ever so healthy or blooms so big. We learned the French names of flowers before we knew the English ones, and were much surprised when we found that what we knew was as Indian buttonholes were called in England French marigolds. But then supposed that it was because the French, as witness M. Noel, had such an such a passion for them. Every bed in the garden was edged with a miniature hedge of them, and the large beds had rows of them down the middle as well. Asked, since the scent was not attractive, why he grew so many of them, M. Noel replied, "They're good for everything," since he also grew many plants out of which Noel made the loathsome she would try to make anyone drink was ill. We suppose the marigolds were specifics against the evils that the flesh is heir to, but in fact the health was concerned. But in fact, the health he was concerned with was that of the plants. Both the aroma and the excretions from the roots are invaluable. Whether the flower or vegetable garden is in or out of the greenhouse, we have since seen them often as edging plants in cotton gardens in England. So what they're saying here, you guys, is that these Indian buttonholes or the French marigolds, they smell atrocious, they don't even look that great, but the roots put the amazing nutrients in the soil that the whole entire garden needed in this sea land. Yeah, and Joyce says right here, marigolds fix nitrogen in the soil and also help repel certain insects. Yep, and marigolds have so many amazing, Hey, thanks, private area, outhouse. I appreciate that, you guys, on privy. Outside toilet. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. But I think I did a little video on marigolds and, you know, when you can pick them and what they mean. I know that if you pick a marigold at noon on the hottest part of the day and put them under your bed, they'll bring good dreams, or keep away nightmares, something like that. I have marigolds under my bed. There's a lot of stuff under my bed. If I had a house cleaner, she'd be like, "Jennifer, what is going on under here?" He or she. Okay, so anyway. There's rocks under here, and dried flowers, and burnt candles, and dolls. What's going on under your bed, Miss Jennifer? Okay, so both the aroma and the and the excretions from the roots are invaluable, whether in flower or vegetable garden or in the greenhouse. We have since seen them often as edging plants in cottage gardens in England, and do not suppose that the cottagers, any more than M. Noel, were aware what they did was to kill nematodes in the soil, as well as the white fly. I know that the white fly is something that Alex has problems with because I've heard it before. So now I need to tell him that. Hey, Alex!
Yeah?
Did you know that marigolds kill the white fly?
No, I did not know that.
Now he knows. Okay, so we've passed on that information to the gardener. That's good news. They also kill the nematodes in the soil. So, and then there's this thing called Tagetes minuta, is even more potent than the French or the African marigold. And there must have been old wives in ancient Mexico where it was sacred to the goddess of agriculture. So I'm going to spell this thing that they're saying is more potent than the French or African marigold. It's spelled Tagetes, that's the first word. Tagetes. And the second word is minuta. Minuta. Tagetes minuta. Okay, so the next section that we're on to is talking about nettles within reason. And I foraged and saw nettles yesterday. Hey Marge, how are ya? It's always story time here. They're also useful proficiently for De las Muertas, Day of the Dead. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Nettles within reason. Let's do a story time on nettles since somebody was talking about story time. When I was a little girl, we lived on a farm and we had a big garden. We had lots of cows. We had pigs, chickens, no horses because you couldn't eat them. And I'm not being funny. I'm just saying we grew and raised what we could eat. And that's how we did our farming. But when I was a little girl, the nettles would just get out of control everywhere. And if you've ever seen a nettle, it doesn't look evasive. You can't even see the teeny tiny stinging thorns on them. But once they touch your bare leg, it's like little bits of hot fire kind of penetrating your skin. And if you fall into them, or your brother pushes you into them, it's something that's really hard to shake, that feeling. So stinging nettles can be quite nuts. I was out with, and I got stung by them just 2 days ago when I was out with Lily, walking on the railroad tracks, and we found a bunch to forage. But I keep nettles in my house because they're great for magical workings, but also because my chinchillas eat nettles. Chinchillas eat lots of the herbs that we have. Nettles can hardly be allowed to rampage all over the garden, but in fact, they stimulate the growth of all plants in their neighborhood while actually growing, as well as being the best thing in the world to hasten the decomposing of a compost heap while providing it with rich ingredients. So it's going to speed up the decomposing of the compost heap and provide it with rich ingredients. In the kitchen garden, it is advised to grow controlled clumps of them, particularly between currant bushes, which will thereby fruit better and be more resistant to disease. And nothing is better when taking in a new area for any soft fruit than to use an old nettle bed that has enriched its own soil for many years with its own compost. Okay, if you don't have good dirt and you live in an area where nettles grow naturally, which I can say for sure in the Pacific Northwest they do. I have no idea about other places in the world because I've never gone and foraged for nettles in other places of the world. But let's say, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking dirt from the forest. I really don't. You know, as long as you like put it back to the way it looked before. So let's say if you just have like this porous soil and it won't grow anything, perhaps you could go take a wheelbarrow out to the woods, find a bunch of nettles and dig up the earth below those nettles and bring it home. Now, there's probably going to be some people who think that's not right, that's not a good idea, but it's all depends on what you feel in your heart if it's right or not. And you absolutely need to ask nature and listen for the answer. And there's no way to explain that except for that you'll know if it's a yes or a no. And that's always stood true in my heart. The first phrase you hear back in your head, whether it's a yes or no, that's genuinely your intuition or your spirit guides letting you know if it's okay or not, in my opinion. All right. So it is a great relief to the overworked gardener. So getting that soil from below nettle beds is a great relief to the overworked gardener. When someone spots a nettle that in fact is not meant to be there, or to be able to say in Mummerset dialect, "E now Dina, thee move thon be excretin nitrogen, silica, iron, protein, phosphates, formic acid, and other mineral salts than be." I guess that's some sort of Mummerset dialect. I don't understand. Okay, next we're going to talk about Dr. Foxglove. So Foxglove, see, here's the thing. So many things in the UK, because we have the same environment. So most of Britain and the UK has the same environment as Seattle or the Pacific Northwest, but generally Seattle, because we have a good amount of rain, a good amount, like, sunshine, you know, but a lot of green, the climate's the same, and a lot of the same things tend to grow in there that do here. So Dr. Foxglove. Yeah, thanks for all the likes, y'all. Appreciate it. Okay, good. You guys are talking with each other. I appreciate that, because it's hard for me to read and chat, but we'll get it done. Dr. Foxglove. Where old cottage gardens still survive, plants that over many years have been found to grow well together will be seen still doing so in what to the suburban trained eye will seem a terrible muddle. When carriage lamps appear on either side of the cottage door, and one of those gardens fit for the ideal home is laid out, among the first things to go on the bonfire, not even the compost heap. Okay, love you. See you soon. Okay, so I'm going to start the sentence over. When carriage lamps appear on either side of the cottage door, and one of those gardens fit for the ideal home is laid out, among the first things to go on the bonfire, not even the compost heap, are the ordinary old purple foxgloves, which the whole place will have been dotted. Yet the cottager's old wife could have told the newcomers there is nothing to stimulate growth and help dis-ease resistance like the common foxglove. Apart from keeping plants healthier, they will improve the storage qualities of such things as potatoes, tomatoes, and apples that grow near them. So the storage quality. I think that phrase means that they will grow bigger and more plentiful. So that's Dr. Foxglove. So basically having it as a weed in your garden will help those things become more plentiful. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that it will make all nightshades more plentiful, because it talks about tomatoes and potatoes, which are definitely nightshades. What else did it talk about? Oh, and apples. So apple's not a nightshade, but tomatoes and potatoes are. So maybe it would help other nightshades grow, like tobacco, peppers. Most of the baneful things are nightshades, you know. Henbane. Claircognizant. That claircognizant is the knowing, clairsentient is the feeling, clairaudience is the hearing, and clairvoyant is the, how do you explain that one? The seeing? I can't remember if it's described as the seeing or not, but I was gifted with clairaudience and clairsentience. Foxgloves has always been one of my favorites visually, and it does have more lovely abilities. I just don't have Scotty's book on hand. It's down there. But yeah, Dr. Foxglove. Okay, now we're going to talk about Dr. Chamomile, and chamomile is something that we grow intentionally in our garden. Old gardeners used to use chamomile like a visiting physician. Planted beside... Oh, before we read this, I have to tell you something that I know about chamomile. We're reading out of this book, y'all. Did you know that if someone is pregnant or breastfeeding or trying to get pregnant, that they shouldn't have anything with chamomile? They shouldn't ingest anything with chamomile. They probably shouldn't be anywhere near it. Now, did you also know that the ancient Egyptians, as a method of birth control, used to stuff their hoo-has with chamomile? I guess that's all I have to say, because now I've said something that has embarrassed me quite a lot. But, yeah, they did, and that was a method that probably wasn't uber successful, but I believe that you can enchant anything, and if there's enough energy put into it, make it work. Now, perhaps chamomile doesn't do any of those things, and it's just a myth, and the energy behind it is what helped them not get pregnant. Or drinking chamomile tincture would stimulate an abortion, or a miscarriage. Okay, so they would make tinctures out of, you know, a lot of alcohol, and then put that over the dried herb, and then let it sit, and then after that there's just this kind of thick syrupy alcohol. Those tinctures they would take if they found that they were pregnant and didn't want to be pregnant anymore. But as a preventative, so that's as a measure of miscarriage or abortion, but as a preventative, they would just stuff themselves with chamomile. And I read that 2 different places in 2 years, so I was like, okay. Because at first I thought that's information that I shouldn't be passing along because I don't know if it's right or not. And I still don't know if it's right or not. I didn't live through ancient Egypt that I can remember anyway. You guys are so sweet to each other. Madam Butterfly, you can heighten that. You should listen to some 963 HZ music, and I think that any of your clairs you can heighten with that if you read them, or if you listen to them at nighttime when you're asleep. Yeah, I don't think most people did know that about chamomile. Okay, so talking chamomile, and now that I've, you know, embarrassed myself and all of that, here's the little illustration of it in the book. And I forgot to show you the other illustration. This one was of the marigolds. Okay, so Dr. Chamomile. Old gardeners used to use chamomile like a visiting physician. Yes? Come in. Someone knocked at my door and my husband's gone, so what the fuck is that? Hold on a minute. That's super trippy. Has Otis learned how to knock finally? Otis? Otis? Hey, babe? Did you just knock on my door? Oh, you guys, I'm going nuts. Someone knocked at my door, but there's no one there, so I'm leaving it open now. And my husband's like way, way, way outside. It couldn't have been him, and Otis is on the couch sleeping, so. Strange things happen in here. You heard it too, right? I swear. Did you hear the tap, tap, tap? It was so small. I'm gonna rewind the video later in here. Dude. And he was way outside. I would have heard him run away if it was him there. And that happened like 3 days ago. I'm really glad you guys heard it too, because I was just like, hello? Come in? So glad you guys were here for me for that. Like, I'm really starting to think that, no, but here's the deal. I watched that video by Stargirl the Practical Witch, and I think you guys should all watch it. Her latest video talking about how to get your spirit guides to act. You can actually see them, hear them, talk to them. So I've been doing the methods that she said, and all I can think, can you see the hair standing up on my arm? All I can think is that that was my spirit guides tapping and saying, like, don't cry. God, stop it. No idea what that was. Tap, tap, tap. Trippy. Alright. So, chamomile. Back to chamomile. We're all over the place. Old gardeners used to use chamomile like a visiting physician. Planted beside a delicate or a lying plant for a short while, it would improve its health immensely. And such herbs as mint would develop far more savor. But after a while, in fact, when the clump of chamomile grew too large, as though the patient had become over-dependent on the doctor and a tiresomely hypochondriac, it would weaken again. The solution was to remove the chamomile while it had done its work, leaving improved soil behind. It is in the vicinity of the plant that had been strengthened, only to replace it with a new young plant a good while later if necessary. The sweet breath thereof, or, as the scientists would say, the exhalation from the leaves, was considered as beneficial to neighboring plants as it was pleasant to humans when trodden underfoot. So that chamomile paths in herb gardens were particularly recommended, but this would seem to contradict the warning that not too much of it should be grown for too long in the vicinity of some plants. It is held to be entirely good for cabbages and in any quantity, and if planted in a yard so apart for onions. So if you want to pair it up with onions, you need to place it at least 3 feet apart, and it will be very, very helpful. Or good for any quantity of cabbages. Now, cabbages seem like they might be hard to grow, but they're fairly easy because I did it, and I can't really grow uber impressive things, but yeah. Okay. What's everybody saying? No, I don't think it's a bad spirit either. I would have definitely felt that. Yeah, I might have something that wants to talk. I know, poor Stargirl and her husband. I'm just like, but she's better. She's better off without. I mean, that was insane to learn that he was probably walking around on her. On her? Like, really? What a dope. Okay. But she asked us not to talk crap about him, so I take that back. Okay, so now we're going to talk about herbs outside the herb garden. Apart from the fact that growing pot herbs near the house is practical for the housewife, here's something media eval in the idea of a garden of herbs growing all together that appeals to most of us. As though at any time we might surprise their lords and ladies strolling richly dight, or a virgin sitting on the sundial. What? Or the fountain with a unicorn, its head upon her lap. This book is taking me in directions I can't really visualize. But if we take the advice of old wives, we must also grow some of our herbs elsewhere for the good of other plants. Strawberries are particularly helped by borage. Borage is definitely a magical ingredient, and so are strawberries, for that matter. Strawberries are excellent in love workings. Since they have seeds around the outside, they're excellent for fertility workings, in abundance, because of the abundance of seeds. Hey, Luna Nightshade, how are you? Nice to see you here. Where are we at? Borage, right. So, strawberries are particularly helped by borage, and sage, and mint, and thyme, and rosemary are... Oh, wait, no. Strawberries are particularly helped by borage. And sage, mint, thyme, and rosemary are good for cabbages. It is lucky that parsley is so decorative, for it encourages bees all over the garden and in the cottage gardens. Those models of good sense that look so haphazard is often grown as an edging plant alternating with sweet asylum, where the suburban gardener will grow the lobelia. It is particularly valuable grown among roses, where it increases their scent. So parsley and roses, it will increase the scent of the roses. And though you will not need it for this purpose, if you plant garlic as you should, it helps to repel the green fly. It is good for tomatoes and also for asparagus. That's amazing. I like all that. And now we've got a little picture of some tomatoes. Tomatoes, potatoes, potatoes. They're all nightshades! And so this section is called Vegetables That Make Good Neighbors. Since lists of which goes well with what make complicated readings, carrots, peas, beans, leeks, and turnips all agree well, for instance, but of these, only carrots should be planted near onions and garlic. Okay. A table would seem the simplest thing to follow. It should be pointed out that in many cases it is not that A is particularly good for B, but that B is particularly good for A. You're confusing me, Maureen and Bridget, but we'll get there. And they've got a chart, and I'm going to hold it up. Not to say that it can be focused on or read, but here's the chart. And, that some things actively dislike each other is perhaps more important than others that do well together. So they're saying, sure, there's certain things that flourish together and those are good to plant together, but it's more important to pay attention to the ones that aren't good for each other, right? Because I would say that, and this is just a guess, that like 75% of gardeners don't use tide tables or moon charts or other things to go with, or farmers' almanacs, right? But that they just kind of like lay it out how they like. And then by trial and error over the years, they go, that didn't grow so well there, maybe I'll put it somewhere else. However, there are people throughout time who have got this all figured out for us. So I think that that's really nice. But it's more important to figure out which ones don't thrive together than which ones do, because that'll be more harmful to your garden, I think, is what they're trying to say, these ladies. We've added the vegetables in the table, certain other plants which are helpful or otherwise to them. And then it tells you, like, some things are helped by parsley or marigolds, rosemary, mint, thyme, chamomile, or rue. And then it'll either say whether they're helpful or harmful, and that's really cool. Confusing little chart there. I'm sure you can find some really good ones online. Luna Nightshade, that's cool. We grow those here because it's legal, which is awesome. Now, the next section is called Lest You Rue the Day. Now, let's think about that phrase. I rue the day. I rue the day. Alright. Apart from being bad for cabbages, rue is bad for many herbs. Some old wives say that it can make sage planted near it positively poisonous. But it is more likely simply to kill it, as may basil. Many people plant gladioli in the vegetable garden simply because the stakes that they need look ugly in the flower beds. There are, however, extremely bad for peas and beans, and so bad for strawberries that these will suffer from them planted even 50 feet away. So, if you plant rue next to strawberries, even 50 feet away, the strawberry plant will extremely suffer. Now we're going to talk about ash trees, which is cool because we talked about ash trees in here at the beginning of the video, and let's just talk really quickly from the chart what ash trees are good for. Ash trees are good for protection, sea magic when performing spells far from any ocean. Protection and sea magic, okay? So I'm just bringing that up out of here because we read it already, and now we're going to talk about ash trees out of here. The ash has always been considered to have magical properties, whether it's virtues for witches and warlocks. Wait, what does that say? Whether it's virtues for witches and warlocks, honest old wives would have you never plant it in the garden. They say that it is so greedy it takes all the good out of the ground for many yards around it. So if you have an ash tree, keep that as far away from your garden as possible. Or if you have an ash tree and you're getting ready to plant a garden, maybe perhaps pick the opposite end of the property. And it wouldn't even help to remove the ash tree because it would have taken those nutrients already from the soil. It takes years upon years to develop good soil. My father's soil, God, I wish I could bottle it and ship it to people and they could magically make a whole garden out of it, but he's been working on it for over 45 years. And when they moved from one farm to the next house, they took a big lot of that soil. So having rich chocolate soil is not something that comes to people easily. It takes years and years and years to accomplish to be done well. Okay. We have had two curious experiences with it, the ash. We have grown a rose for some time up an old tree at the top of a slope. And it was finally brought down by the wind. A good distance down the slope grew a young mountain ash, whose upper branches now came high enough for us to arch the rose across the slope to grow through them. So, you know how rose vines... Wait. Don't roses climb? Roses climb vines or something? I think they're talking about they planted a rose bush to climb around this ash tree. I think that's what it... I didn't hear another knock, but my husband's out in the kitchen making noise. It could be that. He didn't really leave. It takes him usually like 20 minutes to actually go somewhere. And then he'll come back and go, I forgot this and I forgot that. Keep telling him to tattoo a list on the back of his hand that says like keys, wallet, phone or something. Yeah, climbing. Okay. Still talking about ash and roses. A good distance down the slope grew a mountain yew. Every single branch of the rose died back to exactly the point where it first touched the ash. Okay, so they're talking about this rose bush that was growing by the ash tree. Okay, and all of the vines that grew up the ash tree died, and right where the ash tree stopped, they lived. So I think that is. Oh, wild roses are so awesome. Iridescency, so awesome. They're smaller. They're so good. I love wild roses.
I set a really big plant on the front porch, like kind of in the way, so if you go out the front, be really careful.
Okay, what is it?
It's my fruit concana. I said it's that big one that I have over there with the huge leaves.
Fruit concana.
Yeah, I put it out there because I'm hoping it's flowering. I'm hoping the bee will pollinate it because I haven't had any luck pollinating them indoors.
We just learned that parsley in the garden attracts bees.
That's cool.
Do you have a parsley plant?
I do have parsley out there.
Is it in a pot?
No, it's in the back garden.
Well, you could put it by the parsley and bees would come to it. Just read that. Just
cool.
now.
That's cool. What are you reading?
Old Wives' Tales from the 70s.
Oh,
And
cool.
before, but it was published in 76. This is gifts from Tess.
That's really cool.
I know. So yeah, put it next to your parsley and see if the bees will come to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Let us know what happens. Alright, have fun. How's the gardener? Hey, Luna Nightshade said hello. He's gone. I'll tell him when he gets back. Yeah, that's my husband Alex. He has a channel on gardening. It's called Juckshy Farms. So if any of you want to check that out, we've done videos together. He used to go live back when he could, but he doesn't have 1,000K. He just hit 100, but yeah. So Juckshy Farms, JUKSHYFARMS, Juckshy Farms. Okay, so on to this. Let's have a sip of tea. Brenda, your candle is still burning wildly for your dad, and it's a little over halfway over there. Thanks, Marge. I really appreciate that. Marge just put Alex's YouTube up there. Hey, Ricky! We're doing good. We're reading Old Wives' Tales, and we read about trees from Earth Power. Tree Magic. He's gone, but I'll tell him that you guys all said hi. You guys are so sweet. Alright, so now we're still talking about ash and how crazy it grows, and to where even if a rose grows up the ash tree, the rose will be fine until it hits the ash tree, and then all the vines will just die. Okay? Because ash seems to take goodness out of stuff, but at the same time be really good for protection. So that's interesting. Okay. Every single branch of the rose died back to exactly the point where it first touched the ash. On another occasion, short of some pea sticks from more suitable trees, we used ash. The sweet peas we were trying to grow on them absolutely refused to cling. The tendrils we tried to wind around them uncoiled at once. Okay. So as you know, peas and ivy and things like that will grab on and cling to anything. Make a fence out of ash wood and try and grow some peas up it. It won't. And I would love to try that out. Is ash rowan? I can confidently say no because Scott Cunningham has them listed in 2 different places. Ash is here, and then rowan is over here. So they must be different, but they're both good for protection. Okay. Remember, however, if you decide to fell an ash, if you decide to timber an ash tree already growing in the garden, that all old country people would warn you to ask its permission first. So if you... Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you'd want to ask before you did that, but I feel like there's a ritual that you could do, and even create yourself to do something in that sort. That's just how I feel about it. How it will signify its ascent, we do not know. Perhaps the civility of asking is all that's required. It makes splendid firewood. Well, I'm going to say this. The fact that it affects so many things in the living world, I would rather move my garden than cut down that ash tree. And I'm just being honest. It seems like if it could affect plants that much, why couldn't it affect us as well? Maybe there's some sort of like curse that was put on the ash tree a long time ago. Hey, thanks Spirits Moon, I appreciate it. Okay, so it makes splendid firewood, and there are several versions of an old rhyme about how long to keep different kinds of wood before burning them, all of which end, but ash new or ash old is fit for a queen with a crown of gold. That's really cool. Okay, now we're going to talk about oak and walnut. And look, there's a little picture of a walnut. Hi everybody who just came. Oak and walnut. If an oak be set near unto a walnut tree, it will not live. Oh, and we read that just the other day, didn't we? What were we reading out of when we read that? Perhaps we were reading out of this the other day, but I can't remember from what bit. Anyway. This we have on the authority of translation of Pliny and Philon Holland, Doctor of Physinki, 1601. And alas, it is not clear from this version whether it is the oak or the walnut that will die. We have not, by some mischance, the Latin by us, but frankly we doubt whether we should archive any more specific agreement of the pronoun than the good doctors. Okay, now we're going to talk about laurels, and these are laurel trees, I believe, not bay laurel, but wait. I'm pretty sure there's a laurel tree, but maybe they're talking about bay laurel. I don't know. We'll find out. Even if it cannot be said to belong strictly in this section, we cannot resist passing the information that the growing of one shrub, okay, they're talking about bay laurel, at least, and I've done a whole video on bay laurel, and I showed you my bay laurel shrub. It's really cool. So you just have to search Taxidermy Witch bay laurel on YouTube. What are we saying? Okay, Goddess Queen, we'll see you soon. Mountain Butterfly, you're so sweet. This is so bloody interesting. I have to buy this book. Yeah, you guys, this book is fantastic. And a lot of it is written in older text because it's just like, you know, it's... Spanish moss loves oak as well. Thanks, Brenda. Oh, like Spanish moss will grow on oak? Is that kind of what you're saying? So, laurels, even if it cannot be said to belong strictly in this section, we cannot resist passing the information that the growing of one shrub, at least, is good for people growing in its vicinity. Friar Bartholomew Hoth, that the land that beareth the laurel tree is safe from lightning both in field and house. Okay, and then the next section is on controlling weeds, which we said we'd stop at. But we've got quite a few people in the room, so let's just read that because it's only 2 pages long. So, controlling weeds. Some beautiful pictures here. I just really like their pictures. And let's also say, what kind of flower are you? Oh my God, she's a weed! I'm not a weed! Remember Alice? They thought poor Alice was a weed. She wasn't a weed. I'm just a little girl. I'm not a weed. I'm just a little girl. Okay, controlling weeds. You need not have couch grass. In an area badly infested with couch, we sowed turnip, and remember sowing means planting. We sowed turnip seed thickly. as we were advised. We now have no couch. You may not want turnips and sown so lavishly, but you will not get very large ones anyway. But you certainly don't want couch. We have since heard lupins and tomatoes recommended for the same purpose, but have had no need to try them. So I guess there's this stuff called couch grass, and it's not good. If you don't want it around, just plant turnips super heavily in that area, and you'll get them the heck out of there. And perhaps lupins and tomatoes do the same thing, but they've not had any need to try them because the turnips work so well. Okay. So ground ivy, horsetail, and ground elder. These are also some weeds that need controlling, apparently. It is said that marigolds, here comes marigolds again, particularly the Mexican variety that we talked about before called Tagates minuta, will control these weeds. It may be disconcerting to the visitor to see a dense crop of marigolds blazing in some unsuitable part of the garden, but it is a remedy that works effectively as turnips against couch. Who cares? And then here's another part why I like these old books that other people have had, and another good reason to go to thrift books, besides the fact that this was probably like $5 instead of 20 or something. I don't know. Not 20, but you know what I'm saying. People put marks by things that probably worked for them. There's 3 X's and a little X over here that are marked by hand. And someone, probably the person who the book was written to, probably Miss Kathy, put some marks there because that was probably something that worked for her. So I think it's interesting to see other people's markings in books, as long as it's not like the whole thing's highlighted or something's X'd out or whatever. The growth of perennial weeds, particularly of a freshly kind, can be discouraged by allowing them to grow happily till just about to flower, and then harvesting them and laying them back again thickly on the surface of the roots. If you have 2 areas infested, lay all that you have cut on the area first, and the treatment there is more likely to be effective. You can even search out patches of the same weed in waste ground and harvest that one for the purpose. And of course below they have a picture of a dandelion, which is one of the most prevalent weeds, such a good magical ingredient, one of the most prevalent weeds up here in the Northwest, I would say, that people are always trying to kill the dandelions, kill. Why? You guys are nuts. They're gorgeous, and they go in phases, and I love when they turn into the seed balls, and it's so magical to, like, when you're a kid, didn't you just make a wish and blow in those seed balls, and, like, didn't you feel like your wish was penetrating the world? Oh, it's so beautiful. Nice! You picked some the other day, Muse, and they're drying now. That's perfect. And they make amazing dyes for clothing. Have you ever stained your clothes on the grass or on dandelions accidentally when you're rolling around? That stain doesn't really leave too easily. Okay, so the next section is called Controlling Diseases, and it's only 2 pages long, so since I have the energy, we'll just keep going. Joyce Jordan says, I love dandelions. They're also one of the first foods for honeybees in the springtime. Yeah, that and daffodils. Daffodils are one of the first things up in spring. And I have a good joke about daffodils. Daffodils, the show-offs. They're show-offs because they're always the first thing up and bloomed in spring. So I'll be right back. I have to use the loo. And then we'll still be talking about, we're going to come back and we're going to get through the section on controlling diseases. Yum. Double cuppa. Double cuppa. Stop talking! Ah! No. Oh my gosh. Oh, Rosebud. It's nuts in here. Nuts. So I can do. Okay. It's really gorgeous outside, and I looked at the garden and I was like, man, I want to take them out to the garden, but my landlord's out there with his little dog. And it's a little bit chilly being as it's early in the morning, but I think that we should go out there and read. It's just, he's such a pest, my landlord. And his little dog, too. His little dog, too. Okay, so controlling diseases in the garden, and we were reading out of Old Wives' Lore for gardening and Gardener's Magic. Ricky says, I can recognize the sound of a cat being yelled at from across the country. Otis. No, it wasn't Otis, it was Jack. Otis is sleeping. Oh, Otis. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, because this one is also talking about Otis's offerings to taxidermy. So, in the last 6 days, I've gotten 4 offerings from Otis, one almost every single day. One was a decapitated mouse on the porch. The next one was a bird that also didn't have a head, and that one was in the living room. And then I got a mouse in the living room last night, and this morning I got a mole in the living room. Both with full-bodied. So, Otis, I'm saying it right now, thank you for the offerings, buddy, but you need to leave them outside. And luckily he has not dragged any into my room, but they've all just been left in the living room so that everybody can see them right in the middle of the walkway. So, anyway, thank you, Otis. Please leave them on the porch. Controlling disease. Hang mothballs in your peach tree. Okay, so this is the second time this book has talked about mothballs and putting them near things that you eat. And Maureen and Bridget, I know that, okay, God rest your souls, but I don't think that we should be putting mothballs anywhere near the food that we're going to eat. And that's just me saying that. You do what you want, and I'm sure loads of people have followed these instructions. But I use mothballs. I keep them in a jar, and I use them for baneful workings. if there's even one mothball in my whole room, yeah, use camphor instead. Exactly, use camphor instead. If there's even one mothball in my room, I can't breathe. It like I start choking. It feels crazy. One time I left the lid off of my thing of mothballs, and a lot of people will say if you don't have camphor, use mothballs. Okay, but I don't know about that, because we burn camphor and we inhale the smell, and that's safe if it's 100% natural camphor. But man, these chemicals that they're putting in mothballs today, 50 years after this was written, I don't know what they smelled like 50 years ago. But I just want to say that about mothballs. Like, they're, to me, highly toxic. I wouldn't put them around food that I had, but I'm still going to read this book from start to finish. Madam says, camphor is amazing to use it in witch's ointment against the evil eye. Camphor is great for so much stuff, but definitely evil eye. That's a great thing to burn for the evil eye, to use in workings for it, for sure. Okay, so hang mothballs in your peach tree. We carefully sprayed our peach tree against leaf curl. Well, there you go. They're spraying. And still the leaves curled. Pick off the affected leaves, said an old wife, and hang a few mothballs on the tree. No more leaf curl that year, though until then we seemed to be suspending most of our time picking the affected leaves and spraying with this and that. Finding ordinary mothballs at one time hard to get, we tried mothax rings, M-O-T-H-A-X. Probably a thing of the past because I've never heard of it, but I don't know. They provided equally effective and much easier to hang to guard against a reputation for eccentricity. The reason for decorating a peach tree like a Christmas tree with white mothballs or pretty mauve rings should be explained to visitors. So I think that you should hang camphor instead of mothballs is what I would say. You know those like little camphor squares that you get and there's like 10 in a square? Perhaps get a pack of those and hang those instead. But you do what you wish, because people use Roundup on their food and people use Miracle Grow and then they eat the food, so I don't see why some people wouldn't do this as well. But it's not for me. Okay, the next section is called meth. M-E-T-H. Any methanized spirits that can be spared should be used to spray sprouts and cabbages against mildew. Oh, spirits meaning something you drink. A methanized spirit. I don't know. Could be a thing of the past as well. Okay, now we're on to a section called club root. All one word. Bury a stick of rhubarb here and there in the bed when planting cabbages, and that will go against club root. Okay. Now we're in a section talking about pests, and this is 6 pages. So let me get to the chat and we'll see if this is a good place to leave off. Otherwise, maybe we could get into this book called Gardener's Magic. So Joyce says the same chemicals as mothballs are in the solid air fresheners. See, I just don't feel like that should be something we put in our food, but it just makes me... Yeah, the smell makes me sick too, Bee, but not camphor. Iridescent says, I trained my cat to put such treasure into the bathtub. She ended up liking this plan as she would go take a nap and then come play with the mouse that's been kept in the tub. That's not a bad idea, except for I don't have a bathtub, but we do have a big giant shower. I don't see why that wouldn't work. Either way, I'm not grossed out at all by those things coming into my house, and I know that it's a tender topic when I talk about this one had a head, this one didn't. I'm just talking about offerings from my cat, and them showing their appreciation for me. So nobody should get scared off by that. I you know, it's just real life. It's just real life stuff. Oh, and Muse said, I hope your Hawaiian book makes it there safely. It should be there today. Are you serious? Yes! If it comes today, we're going to start reading it today and then get heavily into it tomorrow. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for donating that book to the channel. And then when we're done reading that one, it'll just be so exciting. Christina Miller, hi! You love that I read out of my books? Well, I'm really glad, because we can't listen to music, and we can't watch movies, and we can't do any of that stuff because of copyright, but, you know, we are allowed to read books to each other, and I think that that's really great. So, I'll just ask you guys, because I'm not feeling drained of energy at all just yet, should we pick a new chapter in Earth Power to read, or should we start reading a little bit of the Gardener's Magick, or should we go on to read about pests in this book? So, basically, whoever says it first. New chapter in Earth Power, Gardener's Magick, or continue? New chapter in Earth Power, Gardener's Magick, or continue? Those are the options. Whoever types it first is what we'll do. Magic fingers! So appreciative of you too, Madam Butterfly. Really, I am. I love you guys all so much. Continue, Gardener's Magick, or Earth Power, new chapter? Continue, Joyce, you bet. Okay, so we're going to talk about pests. And here's a little bit of the of those. So Ricky, we'll get into a little bit of the gardeners too, okay? So let's talk about pests in the garden. And we'll start by saying, step on it. A member of the panel of the BBC's Admirable Gardeners Question Time program, speaking of identifying small creatures in the garden, said that as a lad, I love the word lad, he was told, if it moves slowly enough, step on it. If it doesn't, leave it. It'll probably kill something else. Okay. As a witch, I'm going to say this. I don't kill bugs. I don't. My husband, the gardener, he may kill pests, but I don't do it. And when I do, it's like spraying a neem oil on there or something, you know, and maybe that kills the pest, but I don't actually take my foot and squish bugs. An old wives' tale that's just from my past and forever has been, magic fingers be. Shit, what was I just thinking of? Ah! Oh, spiders. Here's an old wives' tale that I've known my whole life. If you step on a spider, it'll rain. If you kill a spider, it'll rain. I'm yet to find that in one of these books, but if I do, I'm going to be really excited. Have you guys heard that before? That killing a spider will rain if you step on a spider? No, I mean, I don't kill spiders. I've killed some in my life, and I used to have a really interesting method of doing it with books on my hardwood floor, because they would these big wolf spiders, but now I just run away. You know, or I basically just leave the room and I want to never even know that they were there. But listen, if you start practicing witchcraft, you're going to see more spiders. Spiders are naturally drawn. Peggy's trying to call, but she's going to have to wait. You saw that I was on live, Mom. You're subscribed to the channel. Okay, so, but I do think that that's interesting. If it moves slowly enough, step on it. If it doesn't, leave it. It'll probably kill something else. The fact that it says leave it, it'll probably kill something else. I think that, you know, has something to say about, like, the chain of the garden and how things work, you know? Okay, now, this next section is called Never Spray Against Greenfly. And here is a picture of little greenfly. Oh, I know some more things about spiders. Did you know that the average person eats a certain amount of spiders a year? I guess about 13 to 15, or no, 10 to 15 spiders a year. Because when we sleep, if you're a mouth breather when you sleep, I don't know if I am. I could be. I might not. The, we end up ingesting so many spiders because our mouths have moisture and spiders look for moisture, so they crawl in our mouths to get moisture, and then we just end up eating them. I know, right? But it's oh, Brenda says her mom has an Appalachian remedy for that. Please tell us, because we don't want to be eating spiders. I mean, nobody wants to think of that. When I first learned that as a girl, I was like, I couldn't sleep for 2 days because I was like, oh no, I'm gonna eat a spider, you know. But that's just, they just look. Yeah, get it from Brenda. Get it from your mom, Brenda. That would be so cool, and then we'll bring it up in a video for sure. So, B Young, who's here, her mother has some great Appalachian old wives' tales, and Brenda's over in Florida, so that makes a lot of sense, being in that like southern area, right? Okay, so never spray against green fly. Why? Let's find out. There is a giant conspiracy. Oh, well then I've got to know about it. Between the incesticide manufacturers and I think we're back and we're good, right? I just had to answer that phone call because my mom doesn't understand what decline means, I guess. That's okay. It could have been an emergency, right? Are we all here and we're back and that didn't affect anything? Alright. So, here's what you guys are here, okay. Okay. Had to lean back for a little bit. There's a giant conspiracy between the incesticide manufacturers and the writers on gardening to encourage the public to spend fortunes and waste hours spraying their roses against aphids. A single clove of garlic planted beside each rose is guaranteed by the present writers to have not been brought to the lobby, though perhaps only because they have never been approached. Absolutely to keep green fly from the plant. Remember that book about companion gardening that I told you about called Roses Love Garlic? That's probably one of the huge reasons. I didn't zip my zipper. Good thing you guys didn't see it. I looked down and it was like and good thing I'm not a boy. I'm so grateful I'm not a boy for so many reasons. Okay, anyway, sidetracked, sorry. It will absolutely keep the green fly from the plant, the roses and garlic. The roots will take up from the soil a substance from the garlic inimical to the green fly. And it is in early spring a few hatch out from eggs of parents careless of their offspring's welfare. They will neither lay nor survive themselves. Whatever it is that the rose takes up from the garlic does not affect its own scent. Kind of like when I wash my hair with apple cider vinegar and I'm like, how do I not smell like vinegar? For some reason, planting roses by garlic, the roses get none of that garlic scent. And so long as the garlic is not allowed to flower there will be no odor of garlic in the garden. Try it for 1 year with one group of roses in the bed protected only by garlic, spraying all the others in the garden as much as you need, and you will never waste money or time again. All members of the onion family, including chives, are particularly effective, but garlic is the only completely efficient answer. The systematic incesticide to end all others. In very dry weather, water the garlic so that the excretions from its roots will be sure to be taken up by the thirsty rose. Now we're going to talk about woolly aphids. No, woolly aphis and the whitefly. Okay? Nasturtiums are said to be your answer to aphids on fruit trees. Growing the long trailing kind would wind up the trunks and also against whitefly in the greenhouse. If the latter is true, it must be because of exhalation rather than emanation from the roots. Since most greenhouse plants are grown in pots, and the old wives do not suggest growing a nasturtium in every one. What? Oh, right, in every pot. Okay, the next pest is ants. Ants are going to take over the world one day. Our ancestors were more anti-ant than we are, blaming them for much of the damage done by aphids. If, writes an old herbalist, you stamp lupins, which are to be had at the apothecaries, and therewith rub around the bottom or lower part of any tree, no ants or pissomaries will go up and touch the same tree. I started to look up pissomary in the dictionary to prove a scholarly footnote, but I decided that I would sooner retain my own fantasy image of a fabulous monster like those in medieval bestiary. All the more terrible for being only 1/8 of an inch long. And then, a sense of an academic duty prevailing, I did look it up, and it was said it was an ant. That's hilarious. I really like that. So, another word for an ant is a pissomere. Pismire. 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 Okay, and now we're going to talk about caterpillars. Another Alice in Wonderlandic thing to talk about. The smoking caterpillar. Okay. Robert Ball, a member of the Royal Society, wrote at length to the gardener Richard Bradley in 1718 about how all noxious pests, notably caterpillars, were born in great clouds on the east wind, originating in Tartary. Windbreaks of trees, high hedges, and wattle fences should therefore be placed to protect the whole garden or particular plants from that side, for no caterpillars would be found to the west of them. And why do we not like caterpillars in the garden? Is because they eat all of the foliage. Like, that's all they do is just hungry, hungry, hungry caterpillar. Oh my gosh, Joyce, that's nuts. Oh boy. Them piss ants. Heather, you're so right. My mom calls them piss ants too, and I never knew what that was. And then you also would call, like, a grouchy little kid a piss ant, like, or Peggy did or whatever. Just call somebody a piss ant, you know. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is earwigs. The same Mr. Bradley advised hanging hog's hoofs, so pig's hooves, which you can get at the feed store, and cow's hooves, and I just picked up a cow hoof the other day. I was so excited about it because it was less than $2, and I was like, what? That's so cool. I'm so going to use this for magical workings because a cow has been all these places, and then now I've got it, and they're just for dog chews or whatever. It's just bits from the butcher that are going to be, you know, thrown away and not used, so why not? Earwigs. Oh, right. The same Mr. Bradley advised hanging hog's hooves, the bowls of tobacco pipes, and lobster claws on the tops of sticks among plants and killing the vermin that lodge themselves every morning. That's it. That's all it says. That's really wild. That's really wild. Okay. Anyway, now we're going to talk about slugs. And when we talk about slugs, we'll do a little story time, and I'll get to tell you that when I was little, my brother made me eat slugs, or, well, I mean, he didn't, like, force me to eat them, but I do remember eating slugs as a kid because, and I remember the taste in my mouth and the texture and how I could never get that stickiness out, and I know that that's a really weird thing to say. Now, all around the world they do eat, like, slug burgers, and if you watch Emmy Made in Japan, she made a slug burger and she ate it and all this stuff. I'm not saying it's not good protein, but I never ever will forget that, and yeah, it's just crazy that my brothers made me do that. Okay, Richard Bradley learned from a curious gentleman in Hertfordshire of the efficiency of wrapping the trunk of a fruit tree with 2 or 3 strands of horsehair. So full of shrubs and staggering points of the hair that neither a slug nor a snail can pass over them without wounding themselves to death. And we talked about horsehair earlier in this book and how it was amazing when used for planting in the ground under plants, because no bug would be able to get through it without murdering itself, because the horsehair and human hair, if you will, is so sharp that so horsehair in the garden is a really great thing to have. Now, if you have a farm and you have a horse, be collecting that horsehair. There's old horsehair mattresses that old wives used to brush out and then put that horsehair that was matted together for mattresses into the garden. They used to make horsehair couches, and little kids who sat on them can attest to how sharp the hair was on their bare legs, etc. When I was a little girl, my mom, after she would cut my dad's hair, would say, "Don't walk on the floor with bare feet, the hair can cut your feet." Now, I just thought that was a fib, but I don't think it's a fib anymore. Hi! Look, I got a friend. Come back. Did you guys see that moth? I'm just seeing what the moth is going to do. Hold on a minute. It went under my dresser with my glass Visionsware cooking pots and pans, because I have a kitchen set up in here. It's in the big pot, the one that I make my flying ointment in. Maybe I meant to make a batch of flying ointment today. I guess we should make flying ointment today. I got a big thing of hog's lard and all the ingredients. I don't see why not. Okay, interesting. I take that as that's a spirit guide trying to tell me something, especially since yesterday and the day before I've been working so hard on contacting my spirit guides, and we had a knock on the door earlier, which was unexplainable. So, anyway. Okay. So mote it be. Okay, so horsehair. The points of the hair that neither a slug nor a snail can pass over them without wounding themselves to death. For wall-grown trees, he recommended nailing the horsehair rope to the wall, completely outlining the tree. For aspillers, winding one strand around the bottom of the stem and one round the bottom of each stake. For cauliflowers, a rope should be laid around the bed. A shortage of horsehair ropes in the degenerate age need not include despair. An admirable trap may be made with a little beer in a jam jar laid on its side. So you get a jelly jar, a jam jar that's almost out, and then you pour some beer in it and lay it on its side. Apparently, what I'm guessing is that the slug's going to crawl in there and drown and get stuck or something. I don't really know. But anyway, like, you can't really have a good garden with all these pests, but if you plant appropriately, there's a good chance that these pests won't come about. I don't know. Perhaps not. I could be wrong. Okay. So now the next section is called Fauna Among Flora, and it's talking about animals in the garden, so this will be really fun to read. let me tell you all the animals that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about wild cats. Like this. They didn't say feral cats, they said wild cats. Cats, moles, which I got a gift of a mole this morning, thank you, Otis. Birds, I got a bird the other day, thank you, Otis. And deer. And deer, right? Okay, so first we're going to talk about the deer, and look at this beautiful picture. I love it. Now, my mother, that old wife, would have loads of things to tell you about how she keeps deers and cats and all these other things out of her garden. But I don't agree with the way she keeps cats out of her garden. That has to be a whole nother story time, and I have to ask her if it's okay to tell that story. In a woodland district, the only sure way to keep deer out of a garden is to build a wall 9 feet high all around it, or a solid wooden paling whose unkept would cost more in the long run than outlay on the wall. The rugosa rose alba will grow to 7 feet high and make in time a dense, impenetrable hedge. But if a deer can jump 9 feet high, what is their long jump record? One remembers the stag in The Lady of the Lake. With one brave bound, the copse had cleared. Anyway, rugosas will not grow well under trees, and our garden in places blends into the surrounding woods. To erect a paling in these sections would be a sin. After we had lived here a short while, we realized that we could never sacrifice the sight of the deer. At sunrise and dusk, passing through the garden and pausing to drink at the stream or pond, but all the young shoots of our roses were nibbled off. We planted enormous tree-climbing varieties like Himalayan musk and kifskite, which will grow up to 30 or 40 feet, and protected their lower stems with chicken's wire while they were young, and such huge shrub roses as Nevada, whose lower outside shoots alone suffered. We read that sprinkling lion manure... Where are you going to get lion manure? I mean, I suppose you could use mountain lion manure. But honestly, if any of you guys know where to get lion manure, please let me know. Gators eat deers. Yeah, right? That's just the natural way of things, I suppose. Okay, so back to lion manure. Let's see if anybody does know where to get lion manure. Ask the zoo. Yeah, that's a great idea. Ask the zoo. I should do that. Hey, Stephanie, how are you? Welcome. We're talking about crazy things like where we can get lion manure, and we decided that the zoo was the best place to find it. Obviously, that's a great idea, you guys. Thank you. Okay, so basically, lion manure will keep deer away, probably because they would smell the lion and know that they can't feed that animal. Okay. We read that sprinkling lion manure would terrify the deer, and could well believe it. But then, keeping the lions to provide the manure would terrify us. Maybe they didn't have a zoo nearby. Though we also read the lion's skins would make another useful product for wrapping clothes in them would infallibly keep out moths. Then an old wife provided a much easier solution. Tie an old piece of thick cloth, such as flannel, on the end of a bamboo cane and dunk it in creosote. I don't know what that is. Creosote. and stick it in the ground like a little flag near each rose or at the corner of the bed. The deer will not risk coming near that strong smell, which will prevent them scenting the approach of danger. After a day or so, the smell will not be apparent to humans unless they are actually sniff the cloth. The flag should be re-dipped at intervals during the summer if there is heavy rain. The scent of violets will, in humans too, have the effect of temporarily paralyzing the olfactory nerve. That's the nerve of your smell. Your scent of smell is your olfactory nerve of the 12 cranial nerves of the face. So the smell of violets will do this in deers and humans, temporarily paralyzing your sense of smell. But their flowering season is not enough to serve instead of the creosote to protect your roses. So now we're on to talking about birds and how they affect the garden as pests. Creosote is like a tar. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Silver Willow has a lady that has a wild animals reserve, and in Texas there are no exotic animal laws, so I could find a friend in Texas who had lions. I forgot about that. And Silver Willow says she has tigers, lions, panthers, and a whole lot more. Wow, you gotta tell me where she's at, because I might need her to send me some. Heck, food just got here. Hey, have fun, Joyce. Tell Jonathan we said hi. Hey, Earthly Taurus, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so birds. We're going to talk about birds, and there's a lovely little picture here. And again, if you just got here, we're reading out of Old Wives' Lore for Gardeners and Gardener's Magick. Okay. Alarmed at the expense of wire netting for our fruit cage, we used nylon netting. The squirrels sat on the crossbars gnawing neat holes, though through which so many birds entered that we soon seemed to be keeping an aviary rather than a fruit cage. We reserved the old wives' practice of winding threads of black cotton about among the fruit. The birds have difficulty judging the distance of such threads against the sky and fear entangling their wings if they have to take off in a hurry. It is, at any rate, a deterrent. Nylon thread will not snap when branches are blown about in the wind, or when, undeterred, birds do not blunder into it. One old wife has proved that primulas and yellow crocus, elsewhere ruined by the birds, are left untouched growing beside a lavender hedge. We propose to grow lavender among our soft fruit, at any rate along the back of a strawberry bed. It will do no harm to try it, but we shall watch the growth and flavor of the berries compared with the growth elsewhere. For strawberries are kittle cattle, I don't know what that means, and may dislike the proximity of such a strong herb. Okay, now we're on to talking about moles. Bye, Marge. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We're on to talking about moles. Okay, there is no picture of moles. I don't know why I showed you that. Small lumps of acetylene. I gotta spell this. Acetyylene. Small lumps of that kind of fuel put onto the runs are effective. The damp in the soil activating them, but they should be stored in a really airtight container. This lumps of the fuel. We had kept some in a damp shed in too loosely covered of a jar. It was grayish instead of black when we used it, and we found a new hill the next day in the place where we had just removed the old one. With the fuel, now white, cheerfully crumbled among the freshly turned earth. I don't like that idea. That's just for me. I don't want to put fuel into my earth. I know that fuel comes from the earth. I'm not oblivious to that. Like gasoline and such, but I'm just telling you that this is not something I would do. I'm still going to read it though. So yeah, with the fuel now white, cheerfully crumbled among the freshly turned earth of the new run. Gerard, the 16th century herbalist, advises the placing of garlic in the mouth of a mole's run, and you shall see him run out astonished. We did, and we waited, and we didn't. Perhaps we did not wait long enough. The grower of caper spurge in the garden is also okay, so the moth has now flown out of the flying ointment jar, and the moth is now flying. Hold on. I have to watch my signs and signals. Now he's going to the back of my closet where I keep the oils and alcohols. Just saying. Okay. The growing of caper spurge in the garden is also recommended as a deterrent. We grow caper spurge and it may deter some, but living on the edge of woodland we have so many moles that unless the whole garden was full of nothing but caper spurge, it is unlikely that it would deter them all. But if molehills you have, use the beautifully crumbled soil mixed with sand for potting. That was something I was going to add in. Okay, so if you have mole, the way that you can tell if moles are in your yard or garden is because there's a bunch of, like, it looks like somebody dug a hole and then left the earth on top. Okay. I just found out from these books that mole dirt, the dirt from moles building their molehill, that's one of the best things to plant your mandrake root in. So if you see dirt from molehills and you don't need it, please send it to me. I'm trying to gather as much molehill dirt as I can, because when we get to Texas, we're really going to start trying to grow mandrake roots. But I'm finding out as I read these books that there's loads of things that you can use that molehill dirt for. The dirt that's been pushed to the top of the earth by the mole burrowing through. So I just wanted to say that is really awesome. And now we're on to talking about cats. Sandy soil, yeah. I know I found so much new stuff about mandrake in these books. I'm probably going to do a video just on that. But yeah, I'm always so excited when I find an old book with mandrake. You have tons of mole dirt, Iridescent Sea? Well, I would love to buy some from you. Make sure that you connect with me on Skype at Jen the Taxidermy Witch, or perhaps we can do a trade. A trade would be even better. Okay, cats. An old wife troubled with neighbors. Cats that, this is totally describing Peggy. Cats that rolled on her catmint and so that's catnip. Another name for catnip is catmint. And lay stunning themselves on her favorite alpines, wrote to a national newspaper that she had discovered a cure. Lay a length of inner tube of a bicycle tire down in the lawn and the cats will think it's a snake and give the garden a wide berth. Okay, wild cats. If you are troubled with these, it is said that they will flee from the smoke of rue and bitter almonds. Interesting. Okay, the next section is on flower arrangers. Yeah, let's talk Iridescent Sea. Go to Skype and find me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we can do some awesome trades. I have so many things I could do for trades. So we'll come back and talk about flower arrangers, and then after that it's going to talk about waste not, like how to reuse from the kitchen, tea leaves, milk, banana skins. Oh my gosh, I want to read this right now, but I'm honestly like tired of reading for the moment. And we've been reading for over 2.5 hours, so my hope is that we come back on in a little bit and read more from this book. However, I do have work that I have to get done, but it is early in the day. It's only 11 a.m. So we've got lots going on. I love you guys so very much. Thank you for joining me while we talked through Earth Power on Tree Magic. We talked about Otis's offerings to taxidermy. Really appreciate that. I will have a P.O. box in Texas. It's very necessary. I can't give out my address, you know. And we talked through this book, which was super fun. You guys, I love you so very much. Thank you for hanging out with me and being here with me and just brightening my morning. I can't say it enough. Brenda, the candle for your dad is extinguished, and now our intentions are in the universe. You guys, thank you so much for sending your energy to B Young's dad, who's ill right now, and yeah, I'm gonna be doing just a special thing just in my own privacy for her dad, because she means so much to me. So I will talk to you guys soon, and I'm just going to hold up the book in case you decide to get it. Maureen and Bridget Boland. Okay? Alright, talk to you guys.